Awesome, awesome. Yes, thank you. Glad you can see that. Thank you, people. Okay, so let's break this down even further. We're starting with $120,000 a year, right? And I picked this number because it's really easy for the maths. $120,000 a year is equivalent to $10,000 a month income. Okay, now we all know that we're going to have big months and smaller months and all the rest of it. That's completely okay, but if we don't have a goal to aim for, we're not ever going to hit it. So if we specify that for the 120 grand a year that you want to generate, that you're going to have a $10,000 month every month, there's goal number one. So out of that $10,000 a month, you then need to generate 2.5 grand a week. Now I know that, you know, there's only 1 month of the year that's 28 days and exactly 4 weeks. Okay, just run with me. Okay, there's a logic to this, I promise. Literally, but what it means is that because you then can break that down to 2.5 grand a week across 50 weeks, that will give you your income goal for the year. There's 52 weeks in a year, so it gives you a little bit of leeway, or maybe it'll give you a little bit of cream on the top if you kick your goal every single week, so you can have a, you know, an even nicer reward at the end. So when you look at your business, if you're going to generate $2,500 a week of income, how many of your average transactions do you need to do for you to be able to actually generate that income? So if you have a think about everything that you offer, have a look at your, you might be looking at your hourly rate. For those of you who are in rural businesses like Sandra and Holly, I think, from Mergen. Is it Holly that's from Mergen? Yes, my memory's not too horrendous. If you're looking at your farming business, obviously it's a very different framework because there's so much seasonal. You've got really big income elements when you say, you know, sell a deck of cattle or harvest a crop of grain and get that sold. It's got to be a different pattern, but you still need to have the goals in place so that you can at least work towards that. So this is much more related to like product and service type businesses rather than those sorts of style businesses. And I'm sorry, I can't accommodate everything in this one, but I just want to put that out there. Still, if you've got this goal, keep focusing on that. You know, it will help, believe me. So average transactions, what is the value of your average transaction? If your average is, say, a $500 transaction, then you need to do 5 of those every single week on average to generate that income. Now, if we all know that there'll be a bunch of people who come into who inquire to our business, and we'll get onto a sales call or whatever it is that you know, whatever it is that you call that, and whatever that looks like in your business. Maybe it's an automated thing, maybe it's an in-person thing, I don't know. But there will be a number of people who will inquire to your business and decide for whatever reason that they don't want to use your services, and other people will want to use your services. So it's important to keep a track of what your numbers look like, so that you can have enough inquiries to be able to then come down to the number of actual sales that you need. So in this case, you might need 10, 15 or 20 potential sales calls to bring you down to those 5 actual transactions that come through your business. And if you go back another step again from there, how many new people do you need on your list for an inquiry or sales call? Now, this is where your marketing plan comes in. Your marketing is about getting you out there so that other new people can come into your space and start to learn about who you are. So if you don't have enough of your marketing happening, then the marketing is not going to bring in enough new inquiries. The new inquiries are not going to come into enough sales calls, and the sales calls are not going to come into enough actual transactions, right? So this is the way you need to sort of come back to, again, that reverse engineering in terms of, this is what I want now and here's how I'm going to get it. All right. So as you've been going through this, hopefully you've been able to, depending on how much of your business you're already tracked, you might not know right now as to how many sales calls it takes for you to generate a transaction, an average transaction. That's okay. It's something that you can add into your list in terms of setting your systems up and planning what you're doing so that you can be more successful as you go forwards. What we really want you to do is plan the work. And then what you do is work the plan. right? It's pretty simple, really. But it's about knowing what the reality is that you want to create so that you can then work the strategy that you've created to be able to generate those results. So the key to this is about taking control of your calendar. I was talking before about that freedom and discipline. The more control you have over your calendar and your time, and the more that you know exactly what needs to be done in that, then the freer you are to actually enjoy the R&R. That is very important and should be scheduled into your week every single week. And also obviously longer times for, you know, holidays and all those other things. Okay, because what it's really about is being able to do all the things that you want to do so that you can create and live that dream life that it is that you're looking for. So I'm going to just stop the screen share just for a second. And I just want to do a very quick check-in with everybody before I go into the next section. How are you all going? I just want to actually look at your faces for a minute and remember that I'm actually talking to human beings instead of just looking at my little webcam up there. How's everybody going? Are you following at the moment? Yeah, awesome. I do apologize that it's 10:47 already. I've got a little bit more that I want to get through. And I know that I'm speaking very quickly, but it's so that I can get the content to you and also be respectful of the time that you've dedicated. Okay, so if we're all good, we'll go back into the next little bit, okay? All right, what we're going to do, actually, before I do that share, just one second, I want to show you something. This is how I start. When I'm talking about planning my calendar, this is literally how I start, right? So this is my A4 calendar and I'll show it. If you have a look in there, it's got like pencil scribbles and all sorts of things on here. The colors, the green and the orange are highlighters, whatever. I literally printed that off and I chose this one. I actually left the weekends colored, but this is how I start to plan my year. Because a big part of what I do is about running events as a part of my marketing, but it's also a part of the community building, right? So it does the both for me. But that's really where I started, and this is why I wanted you to have an A4 calendar printed off so that you can start with this as well and put in whatever it is that you, all good, Katie, whatever it is that you need to put in for your individual business, okay? Now, I'll go back to the screen share again so that I can show you through this with what I was doing. Okay. All right. So calendar control. Very, very, very important. In the calendar, I sent you in the email that we sent out, I'm not sure whether everybody got it because we have had some issues with Drip in terms of, which is the CRM that I use, but it's, some people received emails and some didn't. We sent one yesterday, another one this morning. So I'm very sorry for those of you who may not have gotten this already. But within that, we did put the link into Calendarpedia. Now, this is literally, they create these calendars. I don't see the point in going and reinventing the wheel. So they're free to download, so I use them. And this is why I'm sharing it with you. What I did with this particular calendar is I downloaded it and deleted off all the weekends. They're still bolded anyway. And all the public holidays that were in there because some of them were not relevant to our state. And I like to start with my planning with a really clean slate. Okay, and like literally, this is going to, like, it's all very, I set it up and for the sake of this presentation and did it all electronically, but literally normally I just do this and I would have that piece of paper that I showed you, I would literally have that bound into my planner that I use each year. So I actually create my own planner and I have sold a few of those to friends of mine because I'm prototyping them. I'm doing testing with prototyping at the moment, but that's literally, I would take that normally and bind that into my calendar. Because I've done this work on the electronic ones, I'm going to use the pretty electronic ones this time around. It'll be very flash. All right, so from here, what I then do is the first thing I do is I mark off school holidays. Our son is in grade 9 this year and he goes to a private school, so I've put in the days there, like they get border travel days and an extra week and all this sort of stuff. So this may not be right for you, and if you don't have kids at school, then school holidays become a lot less relevant unless you're worried about the cost of accommodation and how busy it's going to be when you want to go away on holidays. But this is where I start. Then what I do next is I put in public holidays. Now, I do need to edit this a little bit. What I have done at the moment is I've got in there the Toowoomba Show holiday. Where I live is is at Withcott, so we're right at the edge. We're actually officially Lockyer Valley Council. So the local shops here are affected by the Gatton Show holiday, and I haven't actually put this in here yet, but I put in the public holidays that are relevant to us. So you can see Easter, Good Friday, Labor Day, all those others, okay? Then I add in, the next thing I do is R&R. There's a few, so these are time where I've planned on having time off for different reasons with our family. Some of this is because of family business stuff. Some of it is because I just want a break and I need a holiday, and if I don't put in there, I won't get one. If you look at the pale blue, that's actually our family's birthdays. I put it in as a pale version because none of it, this year we don't have any significant birthdays in terms of our daughter turned 18 last year, so we had that was a really big thing. We had lots of stuff planned for that, so that would have, if that was this calendar, that would have been in a darker blue because it takes more priority. This year she's 19, we'll do something, but it's, you know, it has the option of being a bit more flexible. The orange I then add is the training events that other people are running that I want to get to. Okay, so when I looked at this, I did consider these when I was planning time away, but not massively. So why I put this in here is at this point is because I can't control those times. That's training run by other people. All I can control is whether I'm taking part in it. So that's the next thing that I add in there. Then from there, these yellow events that are on here, they are my essential. Mostly this is the free training, free events that I run. So as a part of my business, I run, like as you can see, I've got the webinars in there on the first Tuesday of each month. I also run networking events or meetups. So this year the goal is for us to, we're actually going to go around different businesses in Toowoomba and meet at different restaurants and, you know, support their business, but also bring in a speaker. So those are all planned for sort of the second half of the year. And then I've got the dates when I'm, well, I'll share you here. If I can make it work, the last weekend of October and the first weekend into the start of November is the weekend that I want to be able to run my retreat. But I've got that planned in there so that I can see it to be able to reverse engineer. This is when I've got to start the advertising. This is when I've got to, you know, I've got to have a venue booked down before I can actually start to release this date to the general public. So please don't tell anybody that I'm actually running it then. It's the plan, it's not the definite, okay? And obviously everything can change at the drop of a hat anyway, but you know, if we don't have plans in there, I have learned in this last 12 months that we need to have our goals written in stone. They need to be not negotiable. The plans that we get to write to actually create them, I write those in pencil because anything can change. I've got a bunch of webinars here that will be online. That's easy because I can control that from here at home unless I lose my voice. The meetups, we're planning to do those in person. If something happens and we go back into lockdown, I can swap them to online if I need to. That's what I'm talking about in terms of having the plans written in pencil. So that's essentially, apart from the other thing that I've added to this since I created this particular image, this calendar, is I've also added where I'm planning on running my dream board workshops. So what I'm doing is the next one is going to be at the end of January, and we're actually going to trial something a little bit new. It's going to be online, and I'm going to split it across 2 evenings. So it'll be normally it's a 4-hour workshop with a half-hour lunch break in the middle. This time I'm going to do 2 hours on one night and 2 hours on the next night. I'll talk to you more about that later on, but those have been added into this calendar since I actually generated this image for the sake of the presentation. So that's what my calendar looks like. This is where I start, and I talk about we start at the big picture and then we reverse engineer it. This is how I start with my planning. Not everybody runs events like this. I get that, but what I would suggest is within whatever it is that is important and impacts on your life. So if you've got kids, school holidays need to be marked in there because it influences you. Maybe you do have amazing family who will take kids to support them. Maybe they're big enough that they don't really need much other than the internet and food. You know, that's where our 14-year-old is at the moment. if you've got littler kids like Sarah does, then, you know, you need to be mindful of, okay, have we got a parent who can take care of the children, or are they going to be in childcare, or have we got a vacation care program for, you know, younger school-aged children, all those sorts of factors, right? And then look at all these other things that as it applies to you and your life and your business, because it's the more that you can have this plan in place, the more freedom you'll have, because you can look at this and go, yep, I can do that, or no, I can't. I can. Once you know what it is that you're looking for, the decision-making process in terms of saying yes or saying no, and also if you're someone who has that little bit of guilt that can be associated with saying no, it's really easy to just turn the diary around and go, busy, sorry. It's a very helpful thing to do. So then from there, we take control of your week and your day, because this really is like, it's your year and your month broken down there, okay? Now, how I do this is I use Google Calendar. So I'm probably a little bit on the, I don't know how complex I am, but honestly, compared to everyone else, I've found a system that works for me, and that's what I'm sharing with you guys. I have Google Calendar that I use on my phone. Mitch also can see that, so that we can, as we get a little bit more into what we're doing together, she will be able to start booking appointments and things for me. Adele, awesome. Sorry, Adele's just got to go. Thank you for being here, Adele. I'm sorry that I've gone over time, but we will get the recording through to you. So Google Calendar, so that I can book in the appointment times. I know that if I say I've got a coaching session with a client, if it's an hour-long session, then I will book myself typically 2 hours, so half an hour either way, so that if I've got travel to be able to get there, or if I want to be able to write notes afterwards, or whatever it is that is relevant for me at the time. So I do allow myself that extra with each appointment. The other thing is that with the Google Calendar, and I know that there are ways that you can do that with Zapier and stuff, but I'm not quite that technical yet. The other thing with Google Calendar is that when I've got a meeting that's going to be with somebody else, I can send them an email invitation. And even if they don't actually have Google Calendar, they'll have a record of that in their emails, because I will usually put down who I'm seeing and where we're meeting and at what time, so that they don't need to message me and go, oh, are we going here or there the day before, right? It streamlines things a little bit more for me. Not that I dislike talking to people. That's obviously, I'm a bit of a chatter. It's about just streamlining that process, so that when people have got a reference point, they can just say to them, just go and have a look at your email, or have a look at your Google Calendar if you accepted the invitation. And then the other thing that I use is my personal planner, and I meant to bring it up here and show you guys, and I don't even know where I put it right now. Here it is. I'm just in the process of developing and putting together another one of these for this year, but I'll just go give you a really quick look at what I was doing last year, right? Everything was written in paper. I don't know whether you can see that okay. Just if you want to just flick the speaker view thing if you want to have a closer look at this. On the top here, I've got like a bullet journal version. I've modified the design of that for this year. But
Terri, we can only see your screen.
Let me go with a stop share. I thought you might be able to see where I'm speaking there. Anyway, that's okay. All right. So this is the planner that I use. Now, I use this because I like to be able to have a space where I can brainstorm and dump my information. I moved away from this while I was getting used to Google Calendar. I'm going back to it this year because I'm finding I'm forgetting little bits. So the planner, like literally, this is just Monday to Friday, hourly blocks from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, so that it accommodates if I'm going to, say, a breakfast meeting, if my son's got sports training in the morning, or also if I'm running an event in the evening. That, you know, that's why I've got such a long day there. Up in the top section, I have, this is actually bigger this year, and I've used this bullet journal version. So what I do is I put a list there, and I put either a circle beside it if it's business, or a square if it's for personal stuff. Once the job is done, I tick it off. And I leave it there so I can see it. If I don't finish it, I cross it out and I add it to a week later on in the year. Sometimes it will be the following week. Sometimes it will be further down the track. It just depends on what my, A, how urgent that actual job is, and B, what my other time commitments are like. Okay, so that's how I keep a track of it. I'll go back into the screen share again. This whole thing with the post-it notes, I used to have a bazillion of them. I still do. But that's because I've gone away from using the bullet journal. So getting back into that, I know is going to streamline a lot of the stuff that I'm doing here in the office at the moment. Within that is also too where I, within that personal planner, the Google Calendar doesn't always have the stuff in it that relates to the family business stuff that I'm involved in. Say I've got a meeting or whatever, I might just block the time off but not actually say what it is. But all the details, like additional details of that, is what I'll keep in my personal planner. It just depends on what it is that I'm actually doing there. So the other thing that I do, for those of you who have got a family, please, 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 please communicate your plans with them. And I'll show you what I do with that. I'm just going to stop this share again. I probably shouldn't have even restarted it, honestly. I have, this is a desk planner, right? You can see how it's like an A3 size. It's just really simple. I think this thing cost me like $5 or $6 from Officeworks. January is already sitting on our fridge. This is a February one. This would normally live in the cupboard beside our fridge. And what I do is anything that I'm doing, so the fact that I'm on the webinar today and I've just said to my family, do not touch the internet while I'm on here. We've had some internet issues at home. That's written in big marker pen on the calendar on our fridge right now, so that my family knows what I'm doing and will stay off the internet and won't interrupt me, right? I put anything on here that then will go into the fridge that will affect our whole family. So if I'm working and I'm seeing a client, I don't worry about putting that up there because they're not going to be involved in that. They'll just know that I'm out of the house, right? But if we've got, say, a family dinner or a, you know, my husband and I are going to see a financial planner, then I'll put that on the calendar, so that on this calendar, so that we can see it. We have tried using a family sort of, you know, there's lots of apps and stuff that are out there that for family organisers, and we have tried using that. It just didn't work particularly well for our family. I'm finding that this actually works quite well. And then what I do is, if I, what I've been doing lately is, so today, say today, what's today, the 5th? Anything that I'd like my kids to get done in the house today, because they do, you know, like washing, clean the floors, whatever, I write that on yesterday's so that they've got a list of jobs to do. They know exactly what needs to be done, and it's right beside the actual date of today, so that it's just another way of communicating with them without then having to go, have you done that? Have you done this? You know, I can just go, how's the list going? You know, it makes things a whole lot easier. And yes, I do have bigger kids. It is a lot easier than when you've got little children around, but it's still, even when the kids were smaller, I would do things like, well, when I was working and at one stage our son was going to he was going to daycare some days and to a family daycare another time. And so I would have stickers on there and the kids then knew from the stickers as to what it was that they were doing each day when I was going off to work. So something like that, I started this a couple of years ago. I really wish I had started it way, 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 way long ago. But it's getting better. It's like all things. We're a work in progress. Now, let me quickly share with you the other tools that I use. So, as you know, having met Mitch earlier, Mitch is over in the Philippines, so a lot of what we do now is online based to be able to work together with stuff. So, social media content, before I was working with Mitch, I would do a lot of that planning within Excel, so that I've had all the, you know, dates and themes and all this sort of stuff lined up. We now use Airtable, which is like Excel on steroids, but an online platform. And Mitch and I can both get into that same area, and we work together to get the social media planned out. I use Facebook, Meetup and Eventbrite for the networking and event promotion. So as you've seen, some of you would have seen this event advertised in Meetup, others would have seen it advertised on Facebook, and I know somebody else was looking for a link and we hadn't put the link in the right spot, and they ended up just finding it on Eventbrite itself. Does Airtable allow you to add Dropbox files? I'm not sure. I know you can put images and stuff in there. Mitch, can you answer that question? I don't know about complete files. I would expect yes, but I can't give you a definite answer on that Emily.
I say that because I've tried with Asana to set up for my virtual assistant, but I can't add the Dropbox files of all my images that I want to be used.
Can you
That's
just
what
give
I'm
her
trying
access to Dropbox?
I don't know. Well, I've tried that as well. She doesn't seem to be, I don't know, maybe I've got to work on it more. That's my goal today.
Do you use
Figure it out.
LastPass or one of those sorts of platforms for your sharing? We can talk to you about
No.
that one, but
Yeah,
so
that's right.
one of the other things that I used that I didn't put in this was LastPass. So that in LastPass, what it means is I can put in my like login details to things like Eventbrite and Meetup and all those other things, and I give Mitch access to that, and she literally just taps on buttons, and LastPass gives her access into those platforms like that I'm paying for or using. But she doesn't see the password itself, so it just adds that level of security, and particularly when you've got a bigger business it becomes even more important. But maybe there's something like that where you could actually just give her access to Dropbox. Mitch, can you answer that one about the actual Dropbox files?
Yeah, based on what I know for Dropbox files or documents, you can share the link and put it into Airtable and it would redirect into the Dropbox. But if we want it to be a specific file, then you will need to drop it in there as an attachment.
Does that help you, Emily? Maybe, I don't know. I can't see you, Em. Anyway, we'll rather than get bogged down in this, Em, I'm more than happy to chat with you about this later on if that is helpful.
Yeah, all good.
Sweet, thanks, hon. Sherry's asked, can you post a visual of a calendar? I'm hoping that with what I showed you before, I'll that's covered that one. But Sherry, let me know if I haven't actually answered that before. Sorry. Now, the other thing is, so Drip is the CRM that Mitch and I are using. We're still getting, we're kind of still on our training wheels with that one. So those of you who received emails yesterday and this morning, that was actually sent to you through Drip, where we can then, it's not so much the planning of the projects, more about the email marketing, and also you can use it for recording, recording details of like client interactions, conversations, all those sorts of things. Asana, again, it's another one that we're getting into a lot more this year, but we're using that to track our projects. So things like within Asana, you have areas where we keep a track of. We have a template for, say, the webinar. This is one that we're creating at the moment because we're just getting into starting these webinars, like I said. So we'll have a template that says this is how we do the webinar. So things like, is the slide deck prepared? Have we created the event on Facebook and on Meetup and on Eventbrite and all those procedures for those? You know, all of those things will be set into Asana as a template. And this one was thrown together quite quickly, but normally like a webinar we would promote for about 2 or 3 weeks in advance. And so there would be things like, you know, this email needs to go out, that one goes out, all these other things that happen in the lead up. So in the template, you'd have a date minus however many weeks or plus however many days. And then from there, you copy that project across to the project that is just for today's webinar. And then we set the dates accordingly. So things like today's the 5th of January, we've done this website, this webinar. Tomorrow is the 6th of January, we will send out the email recording with that one. And that's all those sorts of things will be recorded in the specific project for this particular event in Asana, but it will also be the structure of that framework will be in the webinar template that's in Asana. And again, this is a thing that we, Mitch and I both get access to. Trello, I'm using a little bit for an accountability group that I'm a part of, and that's a big thing. That's a group of ladies locally where we're working together with some really big goals, essentially. So that's been really useful. And then I also use an online accounting system. Now I have been using Wave. Wave has decided that they're not going to operate in the Australian market after the end of this financial year, so I'm currently looking for another one. But these are the main tools that I use to actually run my business, and so all of these little bits fall into place so that it's the things that I can find that are the most structured and streamlined to be able to keep everything ticking over the way that I want it to, and to then save, you know, to make it, it's more time efficient for me to run my business in this way as opposed to doing everything Flintstone style. So then you start with Flintstones. So originally when I used to, set up an event like this, I would be emailing each individual person, or I'd have a group and I would CC it to you, but it wouldn't track anything. Whereas now when we send it out from Drip to the group, it's still the same sort of thing in that terms of it goes out to the group, but then Drip will trace things like who has opened the email and how many people have clicked onto a link and all those other sorts of things that relate to engagement and influence then our marketing plan. So they're the things that I'm using as well. There's probably other bits that I've forgotten, but they're the main tools that I use to help run my business, and I share those so that if there's elements within there that hopefully will help you to make to set your structure up and make that planning and stuff for you as you go forwards a little bit more easy and a little bit more streamlined, I guess. Now my computer's decided to freeze again. Okay, so what's next? I'm going to guess that there's probably some of you who are in the room right now who are probably a little bit on the a little bit kind of, yeah, this is great, but I kind of don't really know what I haven't even got the goals nailed down yet to be able to then do all the other stuff. And you know what? That's really, 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 really normal. So what I want to offer you guys is, if you would like to be able to get further into this planning and getting really clear on that big picture that you want to create, is I wanted to offer you guys an option to hop into my next Dreamboard workshop. Now, I did mention to you before that it's going to run across the two. This is a bit of a beta test. I have done this online before, but previously we did just a 4.5 hour, so 2 hours of work, a half-hour break, and then 2 hours of 2 hours of additional work and finishing off. What we're going to try with this one is we're going to try going across 2 different evenings, basically, because I figure that if you're working on a Thursday night, you don't want to sit online for 4 hours. It's just a little bit too much. So what we do is, on the first session, it will be digging into like getting you really clear on all your dreams and stuff. The second one is about actually creating a dream board. When you look at, like I said before, my dream board workshops that I teach are something that I have been doing for, well, the dream board workshops is actually really was one of the first things that I did. I had only been coaching, I started out with a single coaching client, and I had been coaching with her for about 6 weeks, I think, before I ran my first workshop. I didn't even have my second client then. So I've been doing this. This has been a core of my business for a really long time. And the results that people are getting out of them are amazing. It's phenomenal to see. One of the ladies who came to me was so she was an employee. She'd been at home. She was an employee who had resigned from her work because of family commitments, getting herself started on my business, and we went through the dream board process with her, and she, remembered all these things from years ago that were actually really important to her. One of the key things was that she wanted to, 2 big things. She wanted to go and visit the Great Wall of China and had no idea how she was going to fund that. And she wanted to be a foster parent. And she had actually worked within that sector, but she hadn't gone into the actual foster parenting because of her work demands and what was happening within her own family, because she has got 3 children, all of whom are on the spectrum in varying degrees. So we went through all this process, worked out what was going on, helped her to realize that she actually now, because of the shift in her world, she was able to then look at becoming a foster parent. And her husband and her didn't actually need that money, because obviously within the fostering system, there's money that comes to the family to help pay for the costs of the child and whatever it is that they need. But there's also a little bit of surplus as a bit of a thank you, because it's a big taking on. So what she did was, she's gone into the fostering system. Last time I actually spoke with her, they had been through and approved. They were just waiting to be matched with the child. And all the money that was going to be left over that they didn't need to provide for the child was going to be used to then actually fund a trip to the Great Wall of China when they had a break between foster children. And it was like, when watching her to come into the idea that this is what she could actually do, and she could tick off these dreams that have been on her list for years and years and years, and just was so far out of reach she didn't even sort of try them, it was just amazing to see. So anyway, normally I can probably tell you 10 or 15 stories like that of people who have gone to my workshop and then have had those sorts of things come through on them. So normally these, the workshop itself is really dedicated to helping you work out exactly what it is that you want from your life. So it's like this, where I ask you to remove other distractions as best you can, focus and give yourself the time and the grace to focus on what it is that you want for your world. Because the clearer that you are on those dreams, then the easier it is to be able to break it down to all those things that we've talked about today. But also, when the universe throws those challenges at you, as it always will, it's easier to work out how to overcome them, whether it's about going around or going through or changing direction, whatever. Because when you are so clear on that end goal, the obstacles in the middle just become little bumps in the road instead of massive mountains. Okay, it creates a really, really big shift. So normally these workshops are $97. So that's whether you do these online or in person. And for those of you who have looked at my workshops before, they're cheaper than they used to be because I'm changing the way I'm doing things, right? Normally it's $97, but what I'd like to offer for you guys today is if you commit to this, so this is for this workshop only at the end of January, it's only going to be $77. So if this is something that you would like to take up, please send me a message into the, private message into the chat, or this workshop is out and advertised already for $97. If you click through and see that through Facebook or wherever else at the moment and go through and pay for it, you will have to pay the $97. But if you talk to Mitch or I today, we will arrange to invoice you separately so you can do the $77 option only. Save you a bit of money, and as a little thank you for investing your time in here with us today. And for me, for now, that's it. Considering. Thank you very much for being here. I do apologise for going over time compared to what I had planned, but I really, 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 really appreciate all of you being here. Has anybody, now that we have finished, if you need to go, please do, I get it. Has anyone got any questions at the moment? No? All right. Feel free to message me if you do. I know I am aware that, we flew through this quite quickly, but like I said, we will send I will send the recording through via email to all of you tomorrow. All good? So on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much, and it's a bye from me.
Thanks, Terri. Bye.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome. Thanks, everybody.